They accused her of taking someone else's seat simply because of her skin color, because she didn't look high status enough in their eyes, when in reality she was the owner of the aircraft.
The stories shared on this channel are fictional and created solely for entertainment. Any similarity to real events, individuals, or locations is entirely coincidental.
Welcome to Seat of Power. If you enjoy the content, please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below.
They're already calling security. The whisper didn't stay a whisper for long. It moved down the jet bridge like a cold draft, slipping between shoulders, catching in the silence of people who pretended not to listen. At Gate B-22, Terminal 4, JFK Airport, the air felt tight, pressurized, like something was about to snap. A woman stood on the red-carpeted priority lane, still, unmoving. "Ma'am, I need you to step back, now." Lauren Hayes didn't raise her voice, but she didn't need to. Her tone carried authority, sharpened by habit. Late 20s, blonde hair pinned into a flawless bun, uniform pressed so clean it could cut glass. She stood half a step forward, just enough to block the scanner. Her eyes moved fast. Hoodie, sweatpants, sneakers. Not one of us. Behind her, the line shifted. A suitcase wheel squeaked. Someone sighed. Someone else checked their watch with exaggerated impatience. The woman in the hoodie didn't move. Amelia Brooks, 41 years old, standing there like the moment belonged to her. Her shoulders were relaxed, too relaxed for someone being publicly corrected. One hand rested loosely on the strap of a worn leather tote. The other held her phone, screen dimmed, boarding pass waiting. She looked at Lauren, not with anger, not with embarrassment, with focus. "I'm aware of what lane this is," Amelia said. Her voice was quiet, even, no edge, no apology. Lauren blinked once, just once, then her smile tightened. "This lane is for first class and diamond members," she said, slower now, each word wrapped in politeness that didn't reach her eyes. "Main cabin boarding will begin in about 20 minutes. Translation, you don't belong here." A man a few feet back leaned toward his wife. "Here we go," he murmured under his breath. Amelia didn't react. She didn't turn. She didn't acknowledge the audience forming around her. She simply lifted her phone. "Please scan it." Lauren didn't take it right away. Her gaze lingered. Hoodie. Soft black. No logo. Expensive if you knew what you were looking at. Invisible if you didn't. Sweatpants. Clean. Tailored. Not sloppy. Intentional. Skin tone. That was the part her eyes held on longest. "I understand you may have upgraded at the kiosk," Lauren said, folding her arms now, settling into certainty. But Zone 3 boards later. A ripple moved through the line. Subtle. Curious. Amelia tilted her head a fraction. The smallest shift, like a camera adjusting focus. "Read the pass," she said. Still calm. But something underneath it had cooled. Lauren exhaled through her nose. Annoyance now. She reached out, took the phone, and finally looked down. The screen glowed against her fingers. Sterling. Amelia. Seat 1A. Apex First Class. For half a second, something broke through. Confusion. Real, unfiltered confusion. Then it vanished. Lauren straightened. Her jaw tightened. She grabbed the scanner and snapped it toward the code. The machine beeped. Bright green. Clear. Accepted. No one spoke. Lauren placed the scanner back harder than necessary. "Straight down the jet bridge," she said. "Turn left. No apology, no acknowledgement." Amelia took her phone back. "Thank you." She stepped forward. The red carpet didn't make a sound under her shoes, but the silence behind her did. It stretched, thick, watching. A man in a navy blazer leaned toward another passenger. "How does that even happen?" he whispered. "They'll let anyone in now." Amelia heard him. She heard everything. But she kept walking. The jet bridge swallowed her, the noise of the terminal fading behind her. The hum changed, lower, closer, metallic. Inside, her reflection moved along the narrow windows beside her. Dark hoodie, braids pulled back, face unreadable, invisible. That was the point. She reached the aircraft door. "Welcome aboard," a different attendant said, smile automatic, eyes already moving past her to the next passenger. Amelia nodded once and turned left. First class opened like a different world. Soft lighting, warm, controlled. Leather seats wide enough to disappear into. Champagne glasses catching the light. Low voices. Money. Quiet but heavy. She walked down the aisle, her steps unhurried, heads turned. Just slightly. Quick looks. Then away. Assessment. Calculation. Not one of us. Seat 1. A waited at the front. Private. Enclosed. The best seat on the aircraft, the kind reserved for people who didn't ask for space. They owned it. Amelia placed her tote in the overhead bin. Smooth, efficient. No wasted motion. She sat. The leather gave under her weight. The world shifted into stillness. For a moment, everything aligned. She leaned back, closed her eyes. 7 hours. That's all she needed. But even in the quiet, her mind moved. Terminal interaction. Noted. Tone. Dismissal. Assumption based on appearance. Frontline training failure. She didn't need a notebook. She didn't need to type it out. She remembered everything. Every word. Every look. Every decision. Because this wasn't just a flight. This was an audit. Unannounced. Unfiltered. Real. Outside the suite, the cabin filled slowly. The soft clink of glass, the rustle of newspapers, the low hum of wealth settling into place. Inside seat 1A, Amelia Brooks opened her eyes again. Calm, composed, watching. They still didn't know who she was. And that was exactly the problem. The lounge had gone quiet the moment she sat down, though no one could quite explain why. Not silent, not completely. There was still the low murmur of voices, the soft hiss of an espresso machine, the distant clink of glass on polished stone. But around Amelia Brooks, something shifted. Space opened. Conversations curved around her without touching. She sat in the corner, angled just enough to see everything without being seen. Her tablet rested lightly in her hands. Numbers scrolled across the screen. Revenue decline. Customer churn. Retention failure. The kind of slow bleed that didn't make headlines until it was too late. Aileron Airways was failing, not in a dramatic crash. Not yet. But quietly, systemically, from the inside out. Amelia tapped once. Another report opened. Employee turnover. Frontline complaints. Internal escalation patterns. The data didn't lie. It never did. The problem wasn't fuel costs. It wasn't fleet maintenance. It was people. More specifically, how people were treated. She lifted her gaze. Across the lounge, a man in his late 60s laughed too loudly at something no one else found funny. Gold watch, polished shoes, the kind of man who expected recognition before introduction. A younger attendant hovered near him, smiling just a little too wide, nodding a little too quickly. To the left, a couple sat side by side, quiet, reserved. The woman adjusted her coat, glancing once toward the priority desk, then away again. No one approached them. No one offered assistance. Invisible. Amelia watched the difference. Same ticket class, different treatment. There it was. Not in the numbers. Not in the reports. In the room. A waiter approached her table. Early 20s. Nervous energy in the way he held the tray. "Ma'am, would you like anything else? Coffee, sparkling water?" His voice was polite, but careful. Measured. Amelia looked up at him. Really looked. His name tag read Ethan. "Sparkling water is fine," she said. He nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am." As he turned, she noticed the way his shoulders dropped the second his back faced her. Relief. Tension releasing. Why? Because he didn't know what she was, and uncertainty made people cautious, but not always. She watched as he approached the older man with the gold watch. His posture changed. Straighter. More eager. "Another espresso, sir?" he asked, voice brighter now. The man didn't even look up. "Make it quick." "No, thank you. No acknowledgement." Ethan nodded anyway. Amelia's fingers tapped once against the edge of her tablet. Pattern confirmed. Respect wasn't standard. It was assigned. And most of the time, it was assigned wrong. She leaned back slightly, letting the leather chair take her weight. The lounge lighting cast soft shadows across her face, but her eyes stayed sharp. This was why she was here. Not the board meeting. Not the numbers. This. The reality no executive report ever captured. Aileron didn't have a revenue problem. It had a culture problem. And culture, once it rotted, didn't fix itself. It had to be cut out. Across the room, a woman in a tailored cream suit entered the lounge. Mid-50s, confident stride, designer bag, eyes scanning, already expecting the space to adjust around her. And it did. A staff member moved immediately. "Welcome back." "Whitaker," he said, voice warm, familiar. She smiled. "You remembered?" "Of course." Amelia watched the exchange. Recognition, preference, priority. All based on familiarity, on appearance, on perceived value. The woman was escorted to a prime seat without asking. 2 minutes later, another passenger approached the same desk. Different outcome. He waited, and waited, and waited. No eye contact, no greeting, nothing. Amelia exhaled slowly through her nose. There it was again. Not subtle, not hidden. Systemic. Her tablet dimmed in her hands. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. No hesitation, no second thought. She opened a secure app. Internal. Private. The kind that didn't exist to the outside world. Airline Airways. Corporate structure. Board access. She scrolled once. Her name sat near the top. Amelia Brooks, largest individual shareholder. Board of directors. 12% ownership. Enough to change everything. Enough to break everything. Enough to rebuild it from scratch. She locked the phone and slid it back into her bag. No one in the room noticed. No one in the room would have cared, because to them, she was still just a woman in a hoodie. Just another traveler passing through. Just another assumption waiting to be made. A soft chime echoed through the lounge. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now boarding Airline Airways Flight 88 to London Heathrow. First class and priority passengers may proceed to Gate B22. The room stirred. Chairs shifted. Bags lifted. Conversations resumed with purpose. The woman in the cream suit stood immediately, already moving toward the exit. Others followed. Amelia stayed seated for a few seconds longer, watching, measuring. Then she stood. No rush, no urgency. She picked up her tote, slung it over her shoulder, and walked toward the exit. The staff at the door barely glanced at her as she passed. "Have a good flight," one of them said automatically, already looking past her. Amelia didn't respond. She stepped out into the terminal. The noise hit instantly. Louder. Sharper. Rolling suitcases. Overhead announcements. The constant movement of people going somewhere, anywhere. Gate B22 was already crowded. Lines forming. Voices overlapping. The organized chaos of departure. Amelia moved through it without resistance. Not because anyone made way for her, but because no one noticed her enough to stop her. Invisible again. Exactly where she needed to be. She reached the priority lane, and then she stopped. Lauren Hayes stood at the scanner. Perfect posture, controlled smile, eyes already filtering the next passenger. Amelia watched her for half a second, long enough to recognize the pattern, long enough to see the same decision forming again. Lauren's gaze lifted, locked onto Amelia, paused, and in that pause, everything repeated. Assessment, judgment, conclusion. Amelia stepped forward. The red carpet stretched beneath her feet, and the tension returned. Sharp, immediate, unavoidable. The kind of tension that didn't come from noise, but from what people believed before they ever spoke. Lauren shifted her stance, just enough, blocking the way. "Excuse me, ma'am." And just like that, the audit began. The first sign of trouble wasn't loud. It never was. It was the way the laughter stopped. A sharp, hollow silence rolled through the front of the cabin as a man stepped into the aisle, then stopped dead in his tracks. Charles Whitman, 56. Silver hair combed back with precision, face flushed from the cold outside and the heat of his own importance. His suit was a deep charcoal three-piece, tailored within an inch of arrogance. A watch glinted at his wrist. Heavy, expensive, deliberate. He didn't move for a full second. Then his eyes locked onto seat 1A. On Amelia, the silence tightened. Charles let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Not loud, not explosive, worse, dismissive. He looked down at his boarding pass, then back at her, then back at the seat number above her head. "No," he said under his breath, but everyone heard it. A man across the aisle lowered his glass halfway to his lips. A woman in the second row stopped mid-sentence. Even the faint hum of the cabin seemed to pull back, waiting. Charles stepped forward. Slow. Measured. He didn't address Amelia. He didn't acknowledge her as a person. He leaned slightly into the aisle, eyes fixed past her, as if she were something temporary, something misplaced. Then he turned, sharp, and walked straight toward to the galley. Amelia didn't look up, but she heard everything. The shift in his shoes against the carpet, the change in his breathing, the way his control slipped just enough to expose the anger underneath. She tapped her tablet once. The screen lit. A quarterly report, numbers moving, calm, precise. Behind her, his voice cut through the air. "Lauren." Not a greeting. A summons. Lauren Hayes appeared almost instantly, her expression transforming mid-step. The tight professionalism melted into something brighter. Recognizing. "Mr. Whitman," she said, her voice lifting. "Welcome back." Of course she knew him. Of course she did. Charles didn't return the smile. "There's a mistake," he said. Simple. Absolute. Lauren's smile faltered for half a second. "Let me take a look at your boarding pass, sir." He handed it over without looking at her. His attention stayed locked on the front of the cabin. On Amelia, on the seat. Lauren scanned the pass quickly. Her eyes flicked across the details. Seat 1K, across the aisle. She hesitated. "Mr. Whitman, it looks like you're in 1K today. Just across from, I don't sit in 1K. The words dropped flat. Final. Lauren blinked. "I understand, but I sit in 1A, Charles said, louder now. The volume carried. People turned. "I have sat in 1A on this route for the last 5 years, he continued, his voice building, each word pressing harder. "Every single flight. And now I walk in, and there's—" He stopped himself. Not because he didn't want to say it, because he wanted everyone to hear it. "There's someone sitting there who clearly shouldn't be." The sentence hung in the air, heavy, unavoidable. Lauren followed his gaze. Her eyes landed on Amelia again. Hoodie, sweatpants, stillness. The same calculation flickered behind her eyes. The same conclusion. She straightened. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Whitman," she said, her tone smoothing out, slipping into reassurance. "There must be some kind of anomaly in the system. Let me handle this." Charles exhaled through his nose. "You'd better." He didn't move. He stayed exactly where he was, arms loosely at his sides, posture relaxed in a way that wasn't relaxed at all. He was waiting, watching, expecting the world to correct itself. Lauren turned. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor as she walked down the aisle. Faster now, more force in each step. Passengers shifted as she passed, eyes followed. Phones stayed down. For now. But the tension had changed. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It was anticipation. Lauren stopped at the edge of Amelia's suite. She didn't lower her voice. "Ma'am." Amelia looked up slowly. No surprise, no confusion, just awareness. "Yes?" "I'm going to need to see your boarding pass again," Lauren said, extending her hand. Not a request, a demand. Amelia studied her for a moment. Measured. "You scanned it at the gate," she said. "It cleared." Lauren's jaw tightened. "We have a discrepancy on the manifest." The word discrepancy carried weight. Intentional. Amelia's fingers rested lightly on the edge of her tablet. What kind of discrepancy? Lauren didn't hesitate. "This seat is reserved for a VIP." There it was, clear, direct. "You are not one." Behind Lauren, Charles shifted slightly, his expression sharpening into something satisfied. Confirmed. Amelia held her gaze. Calm. "If the seat is reserved," she said quietly, "and I'm sitting in it, then the system already made its decision." Lauren's hand didn't move. "Ma'am," she said, her tone cooling. "Sometimes passengers find ways to exploit glitches in the booking system. Screenshots, duplicate codes. It happens." A ripple moved through the cabin. Now people were listening, really listening. Amelia reached for her phone, unlocked it, brought up the boarding pass again. She lifted it just enough for Lauren to see, but she didn't hand it over. Lauren leaned in, eyes narrowing as she scanned the screen. Sterling, Amelia, seat 1A, the same information, the same truth. But this time, it didn't matter. Lauren straightened. "This doesn't make sense," she said, more to herself than to Amelia. "It does," Amelia replied. Soft. Even. "It's not blocked for you," Lauren snapped suddenly, frustration breaking through. "It's blocked for an executive." Silence. A few passengers leaned forward now. Closer. Waiting. Amelia's expression didn't change. "Then there's no issue," she said. "There is," Lauren fired back, "because you're not that executive." There it was, out loud, unfiltered. The cabin went still, completely still. Charles let out a quiet chuckle from across the aisle. "Exactly," he said. Amelia didn't look at him. Her attention stayed on Lauren. "Are you asking me to move?" she asked. "I am telling you," Lauren said, her voice tightening, "to gather your belongings and relocate to your assigned seat in the main cabin." The words landed hard. No room for interpretation. No room for dignity. Amelia didn't move. She didn't blink. She didn't raise her voice. She just looked at Lauren. Directly. "Are you accusing me," she said slowly, "of taking a seat that isn't mine?" Lauren held her ground. "Yes." The word echoed. Sharp. Definitive. A woman in the second row inhaled softly. Someone else shifted in their seat. Charles leaned back slightly, crossing his arms now, waiting for the moment to collapse. Amelia nodded once. Small. Controlled. Then she picked up her tablet again, opened it, resumed reading. "I'm not moving," she said. Quiet. Absolute. Lauren froze. Just for a second. Long enough for the control to slip. Long enough for the situation to tilt. "Then I will have to escalate this," she said. Amelia didn't look up. "Do that." The temperature in the cabin dropped. Not physically. Something else. Something sharper. Lauren turned on her heel and walked back toward the galley. Faster now, her steps harder, louder. Behind her, Charles exhaled slowly. Satisfied. Certain. Across the aisle, a man reached for his phone. Another followed. The moment was shifting, expanding, becoming something bigger. And in seat 1A, Amelia Brooks sat perfectly still. Waiting. Not for resolution. For consequence. The call went out in a voice that tried to sound controlled and failed. "Ground supervisor to aircraft. We have a non-compliant passenger in first class." Lauren's fingers hovered over the intercom a second longer than necessary. Her knuckles were pale. The smile was gone now. What remained was tension pulled tight across her face, something brittle behind the professionalism. Across the aisle, Charles Whitman lifted his glass and took a slow sip, eyes never leaving the front of the cabin. He didn't look concerned. He looked entertained. Amelia Brooks did not look up. Her tablet glowed softly in her hands. A chart shifted on the screen. Quarterly losses. Red lines dipping where they shouldn't. She traced one of them with her eyes, as if the numbers mattered more than the room. But she heard everything. The intercom click, the slight tremor in Lauren's breath, the shift in the cabin as people adjusted, leaned, waited. A man in row 2 whispered, "They're really going to escalate this." Another voice answered, low, almost impressed. She picked the wrong flight. Footsteps came from the jet bridge. Heavier. Faster. Authority trying to arrive before doubt caught up. Kevin Morris stepped onto the aircraft with the air of a man who believed the situation would bend the moment he spoke. Mid-40s, slicked back hair, jaw set too tight, a badge clipped to his belt like armor. He scanned the cabin once, quick, assessing, already deciding. Lauren met him halfway down the aisle, her voice dropping into urgency. "It's seat 1A, she said. "She's refusing to move. Claims the seat is hers, but the manifest shows a corporate hold. It's not possible." Kevin nodded before she finished. Of course he did. He didn't need details. He needed a target. He walked forward. The cabin parted around him, subtle but clear. Eyes followed. Phones lowered just enough to avoid being obvious. Kevin stopped at the edge of Amelia's suite. "Ma'am." His voice carried, not loud, but built to command attention. Amelia looked up, slowly, as if he had interrupted something unimportant. "Yes?" "My name is Kevin Morris," he said. "Ground operations manager. I've been informed you are refusing to comply with crew instructions and are occupying a seat that does not belong to you." Each word landed like a step down a staircase, deliberate, leading somewhere inevitable. Amelia studied him. Not the words, the man, the badge, the posture, the assumption already locked into place. "Mr. Morris," she said, calm, measured. "I suggest you take a moment and verify your information." A flicker crossed his face. Irritation. "I've verified enough," he said. "This seat is reserved under a corporate hold. You are not the authorized passenger." Across the aisle, Charles shifted slightly, a smile ghosting at the corner of his mouth. "There it is." Amelia leaned back into the seat. "Comfortable, unbothered. Then you should look again." Kevin exhaled sharply through his nose. "Ma'am, I'm not here to debate system errors," he said. "I'm here to resolve a disruption. You have two options. You can relocate to your assigned seat in the main cabin, or—" He paused. Just long enough. "We will have to involve Port Authority and remove you from the aircraft." The word remove echoed. Passengers reacted. Subtle. A shift, a tightening. Phones lifted a little higher now. Amelia's gaze didn't move. "Call them." Silence. Kevin blinked once. "You're choosing to escalate this?" "I'm choosing," Amelia said, "to stay in the seat I paid for." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Kevin's jaw flexed. Behind him, Lauren folded her arms, her confidence returning now that authority had arrived to confirm her version of reality. Charles leaned forward slightly, his voice carrying just enough. "Let's not hold up the entire plane for this," he said. "Some of us have places to be." A few quiet nods. Agreement, convenience aligning with bias. Amelia didn't look at him. She reached into her tote. For a moment, Kevin's posture shifted, anticipation flickering. Proof, documents, something to end this cleanly. Her hand paused on a folded piece of cream-colored paper tucked inside. Heavy stock, embossed. The Aileron Airways logo pressed into the surface. A letter, signed, official, final. She could end it here. One motion, one reveal. Everything would collapse instantly. The accusations, the tension, the entire narrative they had built around her. But she didn't take it out. Her fingers brushed the edge, then moved past it. She withdrew her hand empty. Kevin's expression hardened. "Enough," he said. "I'm calling security." He turned, already reaching for his radio. Lauren exhaled, relief slipping into her shoulders. Charles settled back fully now, crossing his legs, the picture of a man watching an outcome he had predicted from the start. Amelia picked up her tablet again, tapped once. The screen shifted. Employee retention report, turnover rates, front-line complaints, toxic culture indicators. She scanned the data. Then almost imperceptibly, she smiled. Not amusement. Recognition. This was the problem. Not hidden. Not subtle. Right here. In real time. The radio crackled. Port Authority en route. Kevin lowered it, turning back with renewed certainty. "Officers will be here in a few minutes," he said. "I suggest you use that time wisely." Amelia didn't respond, didn't look up, didn't acknowledge the threat. She simply scrolled. Across the aisle, Charles chuckled softly. "Unbelievable," he murmured, loud enough for others to hear. "You give people an inch." His voice trailed off, the implication hanging unfinished. A woman in row 3 shifted uncomfortably. Another passenger glanced between Amelia and Kevin, uncertainty creeping in. Something about the way she wasn't reacting. It didn't fit. But the moment moved too fast for doubt to take hold. Footsteps again. This time heavier. Deliberate. 2 officers stepped onto the aircraft, uniforms dark, radios clipped, hands resting near belts without touching. The lead officer, tall, broad-shouldered, scanned the cabin once before locking on to Kevin. "What's the situation?" Kevin gestured toward Amelia. "Seat 1A, he said. "Passenger is refusing to comply with crew instructions. We believe she accessed a restricted seat using fraudulent means." The word fraudulent landed harder than anything before it. A few gasps, phones fully raised now. The second officer shifted his stance, eyes narrowing slightly as he looked toward the front. Amelia looked up. For the first time since the call was made, her eyes met the officer's, steady, unafraid, completely in control. "Ma'am," the officer said, stepping forward, "I'm going to need you to come with us." The cabin held its breath. Kevin straightened. Lauren watched, tension and anticipation mixing into something sharper. Charles leaned forward, unable to hide the satisfaction now. This was it. The moment everything would resolve. Amelia didn't move. She didn't gather her things. She didn't argue. She simply reached into her bag. And this time, she didn't hesitate. She didn't rush. Her hand moved with quiet certainty inside the leather tote, fingers brushing past the folded letter again, past her wallet, until they closed around her passport. The motion was small, but in the silence of that cabin, it felt enormous. Every eye tracked it. Kevin Morris leaned forward a fraction, already expecting resistance. Lauren Hayes held her breath without realizing it. Charles Whitman sat perfectly still now, the smirk fading into something sharper, more focused. Amelia pulled the passport free. Dark blue cover, worn edges, used, not displayed. She didn't open it right away. Instead, she looked at the officer. Directly. "Officer," she said, her voice cut clean through the tension. No tremor, no hesitation. "I appreciate you doing your job." The words landed differently than anything else that had been said. Respectful, controlled, measured. The officer paused, just for a second. "Enough." "I have a valid boarding pass for this seat," Amelia continued. "It was scanned at the gate. It was accepted by the system. I am not trespassing, and I am not being disruptive." Kevin scoffed softly behind him. "It's a glitch," Lauren added quickly, stepping forward just enough to be heard. "Or a stolen QR code. The system shows a corporate hold. She shouldn't be here." The officer didn't turn. His eyes stayed on Amelia. "Ma'am," he said, tone firm but not aggressive. "The crew is requesting that you step off the aircraft so we can sort this out in the terminal." Amelia nodded once, slow, as if she expected that answer. "I understand," she said. Then she opened the passport. The pages shifted under her thumb. She didn't turn it toward Kevin. She didn't turn it toward Lauren. She held it out, to the officer. "My name is Amelia Brooks." The officer took it, carefully. His eyes dropped to the photo, then back to her face. Matching. Verifying. Behind him, Kevin shifted his weight, impatience creeping in. "Run it," Amelia said. The officer looked up. "What?" "Run my name," she said. Then ask the captain to step out and check the master manifest. Kevin let out a short laugh. The captain is not coming out here for this, he said. We have a schedule. We have a departure window. We're not delaying an entire flight over? Over what? Amelia asked. She turned her head slightly. Just enough to look at him. The movement was minimal. The effect wasn't. Kevin stopped talking, because suddenly the dynamic had shifted. Not fully. Not yet. But enough. Over what? She repeated. No anger. Just precision. Kevin's mouth opened. Closed. Behind him, Lauren's confidence flickered. Just a crack, almost invisible. The officer cleared his throat slightly, stepping back half a pace. He reached for his radio. Dispatch, he said. I need a name check. The cabin leaned in. Not physically, but collectively. Listening. Go ahead. Amelia Brooks, he said. B-R-O-O-K-S. Stand by for date of birth. Amelia gave it. Calm. Exact. The officer repeated it into the radio. Then silence. Static. Waiting. Across the aisle, Charles shifted again. But this time, it wasn't confidence. It was irritation. This was taking too long. This is unnecessary, he muttered. You've already got your answer. No one responded. Not this time. Because something was changing. Subtle, but undeniable. The officer's posture adjusted. Just slightly. His grip on the passport loosened. His attention sharpened. He was listening now. Really listening. Amelia turned her gaze back to Kevin. Mr. Morris, she said. His name landed heavier than it should have. Kevin frowned. How do you— You're the ground operations manager for Terminal 4, she continued. You report to Thomas Brentwood. The name hit. Kevin's expression froze for half a second. Just enough. How do you know that? He asked. Amelia didn't answer, because she didn't need to. The silence did it for her. Lauren glanced at Kevin, then back at Amelia. Something uneasy moved behind her eyes now. The certainty was gone, replaced by something else. Doubt. Ask her to check the billing code, Amelia said, her voice lowering slightly. Not the passenger name. The billing code attached to the ticket. Lauren hesitated. Then, almost defensively, she pulled up her tablet. Her fingers moved faster than before, less controlled. What am I looking for? She snapped. Level 1, Amelia said. The words dropped into the space between them. Lauren tapped, scrolled, stopped. Her face changed. Subtle, but real. It says, Corporate Hold. Level 1. The cabin didn't understand what that meant, but Kevin did, or at least part of him did. Enough to feel it. What does that mean? He asked. Amelia leaned back into the seat. Relaxed again. It means, she said softly, you should have stopped this conversation 10 minutes ago. The radio crackled. The officer straightened. Go ahead. A pause. Then officer, confirm spelling. Amelia Brooks? Confirmed. Another pause. Longer. The kind that stretches. The kind that changes things. The officer's eyes flicked to Amelia, then back to nothing. listening, processing. Across the aisle, Charles leaned forward again. "What is this?" he said, louder now. "Are we really doing this over a—" He stopped, because the officer raised a hand. Not aggressively, just enough. Silence. "Copy that," the officer said finally. His voice had changed. Not much, but enough. He lowered the radio slowly, looked at Amelia, then at Kevin, then at Lauren. Something had shifted, not just in the room, in him. "Captain needs to come out," he said. Kevin blinked. "What?" "The captain needs to come out," the officer repeated. "Flat, final." Lauren took a step back, unconsciously. Her tablet slipped slightly in her hands. Kevin's jaw tightened. "This is ridiculous," he said. "We don't need—" The cockpit door opened. The sound cut through everything. A hard click, followed by silence. Every head turned. Captain Daniel Reeves stepped into the aisle, tall, composed, presence that didn't need to announce itself. His eyes moved quickly, taking in the officers, Kevin, Lauren, then Seat 1A, Amelia Brooks, and for the first time since this started, the room held its breath for a different reason. Not tension, not conflict. Recognition, waiting to happen. Captain Daniel Reeves did not speak right away. He didn't need to. The moment he stepped into the aisle, the atmosphere shifted. Not because he raised his voice. Not because he demanded attention. Because authority had just entered the room. He took in the scene in one sweep. Officers. Kevin Morris standing too rigid. Lauren Hayes holding her tablet like it might disappear if she let go. Charles Whitman leaning forward, ready to argue. Then his eyes settled on Seat 1A, on Amelia Brooks. Still seated. Still calm. Still completely unmoved. "Captain," Kevin said quickly, stepping forward, eager to control the narrative before it slipped further. "We have a passenger refusing to comply with crew instructions. She's occupying a restricted suite under a corporate hold. We believe—" "Stop!" The word wasn't loud, but it cut. Clean. Kevin stopped mid-sentence. Captain Reeves didn't look at him. Not yet. He walked forward, slow, deliberate, the kind of pace that made people step out of his way without being asked. He stopped beside the officers. "What's the issue?" he asked. The lead officer handed him the passport. "Passenger claims this is her assigned seat," he said. "Ground staff says otherwise. She requested you check the master manifest." Captain Reeves took the passport, opened it. His eyes moved over the page, then lifted, met Amelia's. She gave a small nod, not deferential, not challenging, just acknowledgement. He closed the passport, held it for a moment, then reached for his tablet. The cabin watched. No one spoke. No one moved. The device lit up in his hands. He entered his passcode without hesitation, fingers steady, practiced. This was not a man unfamiliar with pressure, but something about the stillness in Seat 1 made the air feel different. He navigated quickly. Flight manifest. Seat assignments. Unrestricted view. The real one. Not the sanitized version. Not the one filtered for convenience. His thumb hovered for a fraction of a second over seat 1A. Then he tapped. The screen populated. Text filled the display. He read it once, then again, slower. The color drained from his face, not dramatically, not all at once, but enough for the officer beside him to notice, enough for Kevin to feel something twist in his stomach, enough for Lauren's grip on her tablet to tighten. Captain Reeves didn't breathe for a full second. Then he exhaled, slow, controlled, but different now. He lifted his eyes, looked at Amelia again, and this time he saw her, not the hoodie, not the sweatpants, not the version everyone else had decided she was. He saw the name, the position, the weight behind it. Every internal memo from the last 2 days snapped into place in his mind. The acquisition, the rumors, the quiet panic moving through upper management. Sterling Capital, the new board structure. The woman who had just bought 12% of the airline, the one everyone had been warned about, the one who was coming to clean house. And she was sitting in front of him, in seat 1A, while his crew had just called the police on her. A silence fell that felt heavier than anything before it. Not confusion, not tension. Something worse. Realization. Captain Reeves swallowed. His posture shifted. Subtle, but unmistakable. From command to accountability. "Miss Brooks," he said. His voice had changed. Lower. Controlled. Respectful. Every head in the cabin snapped toward him. Kevin frowned. Lauren blinked. Charles leaned forward, confusion replacing certainty. Captain Reeves stepped past the officers, closed the distance, stood beside her seat. "I am Captain Daniel Reeves," he said, "and I owe you an apology." The words hit the cabin like a physical force. Charles froze mid-breath. Kevin's mouth opened. Lauren's tablet slipped. Actually slipped. Hit the armrest. Then the floor. No one moved to pick it up. Because nothing made sense anymore. "What are you apologizing for?" Kevin said, the edge creeping back into his voice. Brittle now, unstable. "She's the one. Be quiet." Captain Reeves didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Kevin went silent. Instantly. Because this wasn't a suggestion. This was hierarchy reasserting itself. But it wasn't the same hierarchy as before. It had changed. Completely. Captain Reeves turned back to Amelia. "Your seat is confirmed," he said. "Completely and absolutely. There is no discrepancy." The officer stepped back. Just slightly, his posture easing, the situation recalibrating in real time. Amelia sat up. Slow, controlled. The shift was subtle, but the room felt it. The difference between someone enduring a moment and someone about to own it. "Thank you, Captain," she said. Her voice carried. Clear. Precise. Not raised, but heard. "You can start," she continued, "by explaining to your crew exactly whose seat they just tried to give away." The words settled into the space. Heavy. Final. Captain Reeves turned, faced Kevin, faced Lauren, and for the first time, they looked small, "Mr. Morris," he said. Kevin didn't answer. He couldn't. "Ms. Hayes," the captain continued. Lauren's lips parted. No sound came out. Captain Reeves held their gaze, then spoke. "You are standing in front of Amelia Brooks," he said, "CEO of Brooks Capital. As of this week, the largest individual shareholder of Aileron Airways, member of the board of directors." Each title landed like a hammer, breaking something, in them, in the room, in the illusion that had held this entire situation together. Silence followed. Absolute. The kind that comes after something irreversible. Lauren's knees seemed to give slightly. She caught herself against the wall. Kevin reached for the edge of the galley counter, gripping it like it might disappear. Charles Whitman stopped breathing for a moment. Then reality hit. Hard. His face drained of color. The man who had laughed, who had demanded, who had decided who belonged, was now sitting across from the person who could erase him. Completely. Amelia stood, slow, deliberate. She wasn't tall, but in that moment, she didn't need to be. The room adjusted around her, not physically, but in weight, in power, in truth. She looked at the officers. "As you can see," she said, calm, composed, "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." The lead officer nodded once, a small smile at the corner of his mouth. "Understood, ma'am." They turned, walked off the plane. Just like that. Leaving everything else behind. The real problem. The one that couldn't be escorted away. Amelia turned her gaze. First to Kevin, then to Lauren. Then across the aisle, to Charles Whitman. And the silence that followed was no longer uncertainty. It was consequence. No one spoke. Not because they didn't want to. Because they couldn't. The air had changed. It pressed down now. Heavy. Unforgiving. Amelia Brooks stood in the narrow aisle, her presence filling the space in a way that had nothing to do with volume or movement. It was control. Absolute. Measured. Final. Kevin Morris tried to straighten, but his posture betrayed him. The confidence that had carried him down the jet bridge minutes earlier was gone. What remained was a man realizing, too late, exactly where he was standing. "Miss Brooks," he began, his voice catching just enough to give him away. "If there has been a misunderstanding." There wasn't. The interruption was quiet, but it cut him off completely. Amelia didn't look away from him. "10 minutes ago," she said, "you threatened me with federal charges." Each word landed with precision. "You did that without verifying my identity, without checking the master manifest, without following your own protocol." Kevin swallowed. His mouth opened again, searching for something. An explanation, an excuse, anything. "I was following procedure," he said, but the words felt thin the moment they left him. "No," Amelia replied. She took a step forward. Not aggressive, not rushed, but enough. "You were following your assumptions." Silence. Lauren Hayes let out a quiet, uneven breath against the wall behind her. Her hands were shaking now, not visibly at first, but enough that she had to clasp them together to stop it. "I thought," she started. "I know what you thought," Amelia said. Her voice softened slightly. Not with kindness, with clarity. You looked at me and decided I didn't belong. Lauren's eyes dropped. Mascara smudged at the edges. The perfect presentation breaking apart under pressure. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The words barely carried. Amelia didn't respond, because sorry wasn't the point. Across the aisle, Charles Whitman shifted in his seat. The movement was small, but it drew attention, because for the first time since he boarded, he looked uncertain. Not annoyed, not superior, uncertain. "Miss Brooks," he said, forcing a smile that didn't hold. "I think we all got a little ahead of ourselves here. These things happen. No harm done. No harm." The phrase hung in the air. Amelia turned her head. Slowly. Locked onto him. And in that moment, Charles felt it. The shift, the weight. He adjusted his tie, fingers moving faster than necessary. "I mean," he continued, voice tightening, "boarding can be chaotic. People get confused. I was just trying to... You were trying to remove me." She didn't raise her voice, but the sentence landed harder than anything before it. Charles froze. His smile collapsed. "You saw me," Amelia said, "and your first instinct was to weaponize the staff against me." The words were clinical, precise, unavoidable. "That's not," he started. "It is." She cut him off. Flat, final. "You didn't ask a question. You didn't check your ticket. You made a decision." Charles's throat tightened. Around him, the cabin stayed silent. No one moved to defend him. No one spoke. Because they had seen it. All of it. And now they were seeing the consequence. Amelia stepped back slightly. Not retreating. Repositioning. "Captain Reeves," she said. "Yes, ma'am," he responded immediately. Standing straighter now, attentive, present. "Mr. Morris has demonstrated that he cannot follow basic verification protocol," Amelia continued. "He escalated a situation based entirely on bias and incomplete information. His actions exposed this company to legal liability and reputational damage." Kevin's face drained further. "Miss Brooks, please, effective immediately," she said, her voice steady. "He is to be removed from this aircraft." Silence hit like a shockwave. Kevin blinked. Once, twice, as if the words hadn't registered. "You can't," he started. "I can." She didn't look at him. Didn't need to. Captain Reeves stepped forward. "You heard her," he said. No hesitation. No question. Kevin looked between them. The captain, Amelia, the reality of the hierarchy snapping into place. This wasn't a negotiation. This was over. "I've been with this company for 12 years, he said, desperation slipping through now. "I have a record. I have." "Then you should have known better." Amelia's voice didn't change, but something inside it hardened. "Your experience didn't stop you from attempting to have me arrested for sitting in a seat I paid for." Kevin's shoulders dropped. Just slightly. Enough. Captain Reeves extended his hand. "Badge." Kevin hesitated. Just for a second. Then his hand moved. Slow, unclipping the plastic badge from his belt. He placed it in the captain's palm. The sound it made, light, hollow, echoed louder than it should have. Kevin didn't look at anyone as he turned. Didn't look at Lauren. Didn't look at Charles. He walked up the aisle, heavy, defeated. The cabin watched him go. No one spoke, because they understood what they were seeing. Not just a man leaving, a position collapsing, a consequence unfolding in real time. The aircraft door opened, then closed again, and Kevin Morris was gone. The silence that followed was different, not tension, not anticipation, something colder. Lauren was still pressed against the wall. Tears had started to fall now. Quiet. Uncontrolled. "I'll leave," she said quickly, voice breaking. "I'll get off the plane. I'm so sorry." "I didn't. You're not leaving." Lauren blinked. Confused. "What?" Amelia sat down. Smooth, controlled, reclaiming the space. "We're already delayed," she said. "Removing a senior crew member now would cost the departure slot." Lauren's breath hitched. You're going to work this flight." The word settled. Heavy. Lauren nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am." But Amelia wasn't finished. "You're going to follow the service manual exactly," she continued. "No shortcuts, no selective treatment." Lauren swallowed hard. "Yes. And every passenger on this aircraft," Amelia said, "will receive the same level of respect, not just the ones you think deserve it." Lauren's voice shook. "Yes, ma'am." Amelia leaned back into the seat, relaxed again, but colder now. "Once we land," she added, "you will report directly to HR." Lauren closed her eyes briefly. A single tear slipped down her cheek. "Yes, ma'am." Amelia turned her head. Slow. Back across the aisle. Charles Whitman was still there, still sitting. But everything about him had changed. The confidence, gone. The arrogance, gone. What remained was something smaller, fragile. "Miss Brooks," he said, voice tight, controlled, trying to rebuild something that had already broken. "I think we can resolve this privately." "There's no need to." Amelia picked up her tablet. Didn't look at him. "Sit down, Mr. Whitman." He stopped, mid-sentence, because he realized something, for the first time since he boarded. He wasn't the one in control anymore. And the worst part was that he never had been. The aircraft door sealed with a heavy final thud. It echoed through the cabin like a closing statement. Seatbelts clicked. Overhead bins snapped shut. The soft chime of the cabin system tried to restore order, but something in the air refused to settle. Nothing felt normal anymore. Lauren Hayes moved first. Not because she wanted to, because she had to. Her hands were still shaking as she stepped into the aisle, posture stiff, movements precise in a way that wasn't natural. Every step felt measured, like she was walking through glass. "Pre-departure beverages," she said, her voice catching slightly before she forced it steady. The words were correct. The tone wasn't. Passengers nodded. Some avoided eye contact. Others watched her too closely, because they had seen what happened, and now they were watching what came after. Lauren turned toward seat 1A. The distance felt longer than it should have, each step heavier, each breath tighter. She stopped at the edge of Amelia's suite. For a second, she didn't speak. She couldn't. Amelia didn't look up. Her tablet rested on her lap, screen dim, her attention elsewhere. Or at least, it appeared that way. Lauren swallowed. "Miss Brooks," she said, the name unfamiliar in her mouth now. "Would you like a beverage before departure?" Her voice was quieter than before. Careful. Measured. Amelia lifted her eyes. Not quickly, not slowly. Exactly when she chose to. "Sparkling water," she said. "With lime. Simple. Direct." Lauren nodded immediately. "Yes, ma'am." She turned too fast. Almost dropped the tray. Caught it just in time. A few passengers noticed. No one said anything. Because the room understood something now. This wasn't just service. This was correction. Lauren moved to the galley, hands working faster than her thoughts. Bottle, glass, lime wedge, ice. The details mattered now, every detail, because every mistake would be remembered. She returned to seat 1A. More careful this time. The glass trembled slightly as she set it down. Amelia reached out. Steady. Her fingers touched Lauren's wrist. Just briefly. Enough to stop the movement. Lauren froze. "Breathe," Amelia said quietly. Not kind, not cruel, just factual. Lauren inhaled. Sharp. Then again. Slower. "Thank you," Amelia said, releasing her wrist. Lauren nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am." She stepped back, moved on. The service continued. But it wasn't the same. Every interaction was tighter, more controlled. No wasted words, no assumptions. Passengers noticed. Of course they did. A man in row 2 leaned toward his companion. "I've never seen service like this," he whispered. "Neither have they," the woman replied. Across the aisle, Charles Whitman hadn't touched his drink. It sat on the tray table in front of him, untouched, the condensation slowly gathering at the base. His hands were clasped together. Too tightly. He stared straight ahead, but his focus wasn't on anything in front of him. It was on what was coming. Because he knew. Not exactly, but enough. The engines outside began to hum. Low at first, then building. The aircraft shifted slightly, preparing to push back. And still, no one relaxed. Amelia Brooks sat in silence. Her posture unchanged, her presence heavier now. Not because she had said more, because she didn't need to. Charles glanced towards her, just once, then quickly away. He adjusted his tie again, a nervous habit now. His mind moved faster than his body, calculating, reframing, trying to find a version of this where he wasn't already losing. He stood. The movement drew attention immediately. Lauren looked up from the galley. Captain Reeves turned slightly. Amelia didn't move. Charles stepped into the aisle. "Miss Brooks," he said. His voice was different now. Lower. Careful. Controlled in a way that felt forced. Amelia didn't look at him. "Sit down," she said. He stopped. mid-step. The words weren't loud, but they carried, because they weren't a suggestion. He hesitated, just long enough for the entire cabin to feel it. Then he sat, slowly, back into his seat. A man in the third row exhaled quietly. The tension shifted again, not breaking, just tightening into something sharper. The plane began to move. Pushback, slow, mechanical. The outside world sliding away. Inside, time felt different, stretched, every second heavier than the last. Lauren resumed her position, standing near the galley, watching, waiting. Her eyes moved constantly now, checking, adjusting, correcting, everything, because she understood now. This wasn't over, not even close. The engines roared louder. The cabin vibrated slightly as the aircraft aligned for taxi. A voice crackled over the intercom. "Captain Reeves! Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We've been cleared for departure. Flight time to London will be approximately 7 hours. Thank you for your patience." His tone was steady, professional. But underneath it, something else. Something that hadn't been there before. Accountability. The seatbelt sign illuminated. A soft chime. Passengers adjusted. Settled. Prepared. Except no one truly settled. Because something remained unresolved. Across the aisle, Charles shifted again. Then again. Finally, he leaned forward. "Miss Brooks," he said, quieter now, almost careful enough to be mistaken for respectful. "I think we should talk." Amelia didn't respond. Her gaze stayed forward, unmoved. He cleared his throat. "I wasn't aware of who you were," he continued. "If I had known," that got her attention. She turned, slowly, looked directly at him, and for the first time since he spoke, he stopped, completely. Because there was no anger in her expression, no satisfaction, just clarity. "If you had known," she said, "you would have treated me differently." He swallowed. "That's not what That's exactly what you mean." Her voice was calm, but final. Charles's hands tightened again. "I made a mistake," he said. "Yes," Amelia replied. No hesitation, no comfort. Just truth. The engines surged. The aircraft began to accelerate. Faster. Louder. The cabin pressed back into their seats, and in that moment, Charles Whitman realized something. The mistake wasn't what he said. It was what he revealed. Because now, there was nothing left to hide. And Amelia Brooks was just getting started. The wheels left the ground with a low, rising force that pressed everyone back into their seats. For a brief moment, gravity held them all the same. Equal. Then the aircraft climbed, and reality returned. Not equally. Never equally. Seat 1. A remained closed off, quiet, controlled. The privacy door was still open, but it might as well have been a wall. No one crossed that line anymore. No one even looked directly inside for more than a second. Amelia Brooks sat with her tablet resting on her lap. The screen dimmed. She wasn't reading now. She was thinking. Not about the scene, not about the humiliation, about the system. Because this was never about one interaction. It was about how easily it happened. Across the aisle, Charles Whitman stared at nothing. His drink was still untouched. His hands had loosened, but only slightly. Enough to stop the tremor, not enough to hide it. The cabin lights softened as the aircraft leveled. Service resumed. Lauren moved through the aisle again, this time slower, more deliberate. Every step controlled. She stopped at each seat, voice measured, tone consistent. No variation, no preference, no bias. She had learned, or at least she was trying. When she reached Charles, she paused. "Mr. Whitman," she said, keeping her voice even. "Would you like a beverage or anything to eat?" He looked up, really looked at her, and for the first time since he boarded, he didn't see a server. He saw a witness. "No," he said. His voice was quieter now, smaller. Lauren nodded once. No reaction, no adjustment. She moved on. The shift was subtle, but it was complete. Further down the aisle, a younger attendant approached Amelia's suite. She knocked lightly. "Miss Brooks." Amelia looked up. "Yes?" The attendant held a bottle of Bordeaux in both hands. "Careful, respectful." "Mr. Whitman asked me to bring this to you," she said, along with a note. She extended the folded linen napkin. Amelia's gaze moved from the bottle to the note, then back to the attendant. "Thank you," she said. She took the note, unfolded it. The handwriting was rushed, uneven. Words pressed too hard into the fabric. An apology, not simple, desperate. Paragraph after paragraph, explaining, justifying, reframing, trying to undo something that had already happened. Amelia read it once, then folded it, set it aside. "Take the wine back to him," she said. The attendant hesitated. "Yes, ma'am." "And tell him," Amelia added, her voice steady, "I don't accept bribes for character." The attendant nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am." She turned, walked back across the aisle. Charles watched her approach. Hope flickered. Small, fragile. Then she stopped at his seat. "Miss Brooks asked me to return this," she said, placing the bottle carefully on his tray. His expression fell. Completely. And she said. The attendant hesitated just a fraction, then continued. "She doesn't accept bribes for character." The words landed, hard. Charles leaned back slowly. The air left his chest in a controlled exhale. Not anger, not frustration. Something worse. Recognition. The attendant moved away. The cabin settled again, but not into comfort, into awareness. Amelia leaned her head slightly towards the window. Outside, the sky stretched endless and dark, the horizon barely visible. The ocean below was invisible, but she knew it was there. Deep, cold, unforgiving. She closed her eyes for a moment, not to rest, to think. Because this wasn't about punishment. It never was. It was about correction. Systemic. permanent. The reports she had reviewed earlier replayed in her mind. Employee retention, customer complaints, revenue decline, all symptoms, all pointing to the same root: culture. And culture didn't change with apologies. It changed with consequences. Her eyes opened again. Across the aisle, Charles Whitman sat in silence. His phone rested in his hand now, unlocked. A blank message thread open. He stared at it, typing, deleting, typing again. Nothing stuck, because there was no version of this he could fix with words. Further down the cabin, Lauren continued her service. Steady, precise, every movement intentional. But the weight hadn't left her. It sat in her shoulders, in the way she breathed, in the way she avoided looking toward seat 1A for too long. Because she knew. The flight wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Hours passed, quiet, heavy, the kind of silence that doesn't relax. It waits. The cabin lights dimmed further. Passengers leaned back. Some closed their eyes. Some pretended to. But no one truly slept, because the memory of what had happened stayed present, unresolved. The call bells rang occasionally, soft, sharp. Each time, Lauren responded immediately. No delay, no hesitation, perfect execution, because now she understood the cost of getting it wrong. Midway through the flight, Charles stood again, this time slower, more cautious. He stepped into the aisle. No one reacted, but everyone noticed. He walked toward seat 1A, stopped just outside, didn't cross the threshold, didn't knock. "Miss Brooks," he said quietly. No response. He waited. Then the privacy door slid open. Smooth, controlled. Amelia looked at him. Not inviting, not dismissing, just allowing. Charles swallowed. "I wanted to apologize," he said. The words felt smaller now, weaker. "I handled that situation poorly. I made assumptions I shouldn't have made." Amelia said nothing. He continued. "I've built my career on understanding people, on managing relationships. And today," he paused, "today I got it wrong." She watched him, silent, unmoved. "I know an apology doesn't fix it," he added, "but I needed to say it." Another pause, longer. Then Amelia spoke. "Your apology isn't the issue." Charles frowned slightly. "What is then?" She held his gaze. "You meant it." The sentence hit harder than anything else, because it wasn't an accusation. It was a fact. Charles's mouth opened, closed. No defense came, because there wasn't one. Amelia leaned back slightly. "The problem isn't what you said," she continued. "It's that you believed it." Silence. Heavy. Final. Charles nodded once. Slow. Because he understood. Not fully, but enough. "I see that now," he said. Amelia didn't respond. The conversation ended without being dismissed, because there was nothing left to say. Charles stepped back, returned to his seat, and for the rest of the flight, he didn't speak again. The cabin remained quiet, but the silence had changed. It wasn't tension anymore. It was consequence unfolding in real time. And Amelia Brooks was already planning what came next. The first light of morning slipped through the windows in thin streaks of pale gold. London was still waking up. Inside the cabin, no one had really slept. Seatbelts clicked back into place as the aircraft began its descent. The hum of the engine softened, but the weight in the air did not. Captain Reeves's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've begun our descent into Heathrow. We'll be landing shortly. Thank you for your patience. Professional, steady, but different now. More careful, more aware." Amelia Brooks closed her tablet and placed it neatly into her tote. Every movement precise, controlled, finished. The audit was over. The real work was about to begin. Across the aisle, Charles Whitman stared out the window. The clouds parted beneath them, revealing the grey patchwork of the city below. He didn't see it. He was already somewhere else, calculating damage, measuring loss, understanding, slowly, that some things couldn't be recovered. Lauren Hayes stood near the galley, hands clasped tightly in front of her. Her uniform was still perfect, but everything inside it had shifted. Her eyes moved once toward Seat 1A, then away, because she knew. The moment the plane touched the ground, nothing would be the same. The wheels hit the runway with a firm, controlled impact. A jolt ran through the cabin, reality returning. Fast. The aircraft slowed, taxied, aligned with the gate. No one stood early. No one reached for their bags. Because no one wanted to move first. The door opened. Cold London air pushed into the cabin. And immediately everything changed. A man in a tailored black suit stepped onto the aircraft. Not crew, not security. Something else. He moved with purpose, bypassing every passenger, every distraction, every expectation. Straight to Seat 1A. "Miss Brooks," he said, stopping just outside her suite. His posture lowered slightly. "Respect, not performance. Your car is ready. We'll take you directly to headquarters." The cabin watched, silent, unblinking. Amelia stood, smooth, effortless. She lifted her tote, adjusted the strap over her shoulder, and stepped into the aisle. No rush, no hesitation. As she walked forward, the space around her opened. Naturally, instinctively. Lauren stood by the door, waiting. Still. Amelia stopped in front of her. For a moment, neither spoke. Lauren's eyes stayed lowered. "I'm reporting to HR," she said quietly. Not a question, a statement. Amelia looked at her. Really looked. Not at the uniform. Not at the mistake. At the person. "Yes," she said. "Simple. Final." Lauren nodded once. A single tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. Amelia moved past her, stepped off the plane. Gone. The cabin remained still for a few seconds longer. Then it broke. Phones came out. Messages sent. Voices returned in low, urgent tones. "What just happened? Did you hear?" That was, across the aisle, Charles Whitman didn't move. Not immediately. Then his phone was in his hand. Unlocked. Dialing. Fast. Desperate. "Connect me to senior management," he said the second the call went through. "Now!" His voice had changed. Not commanding, pleading. Because he knew. Time was already running out. 45 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up in front of Aileron Airways' European headquarters. Glass, steel, power. Amelia stepped out. Same hoodie, same sneakers, same presence. Inside, the lobby fell quiet. Employees glanced up, confused, curious, then uncertain, because something about her didn't match the image they expected. And yet, it felt like it should. She walked past security without slowing. Her access card tapped once against the scanner. Green light. Immediate. No delay. The elevator doors opened. Private. Restricted. She stepped inside. Alone. The doors closed. The ascent was silent. When they opened again, the executive floor waited. A long hallway, muted carpet, glass walls. At the end, the boardroom. 12 people sat around a polished table. Suits, titles, years of control. And none of them were prepared. The door opened. Every conversation stopped. Amelia walked in. Didn't sit. Didn't greet. She placed her tote on the table. Unzipped it. Removed her tablet. "Gentlemen," she said. Her voice filled the room. Not loud, but absolute. "We have a problem." They shifted. Uncomfortable. Trying to recover. "Miss Brooks," one of them began, forcing a smile. "We were expecting. I was almost arrested this morning," she said. The room froze. No transition, no build-up. Just truth. Silence. Then, "What?" another executive said, leaning forward. "That's not possible." "It is," Amelia replied. She tapped her tablet. The screen behind them lit up. Footage, transcripts, names, Lauren Hayes, Kevin Morris, Charles Whitman. Every detail, every word, every decision. Exposed. "This," she said, gesturing to the screen, "is why your company is failing." No one spoke. Because they couldn't. "You have built a culture," she continued, "that prioritizes perception over reality, status over service, assumption over verification." Her gaze moved across the table. One by one. "You are bleeding customers," she said, "because your frontline staff treat people based on what they think they see." A man cleared his throat. "We can address this internally." "You will," Amelia said. "Flat. Controlled. Effective immediately. Kevin Morris is terminated. No severance. No negotiation." A pause. Then, "Lauren Hayes is suspended pending review." "Likely termination." Another pause. Longer. "Charles Whitman's accounts," she added, almost as an afterthought, "will be reassessed. I don't do business with people who mistake prejudice for confidence." The words landed. Heavy. Permanent. "And Thomas Brentwood," she continued, "your VP of operations, he's responsible for this training structure. He's gone." Shock moved through the room. Real this time. Because now, it wasn't a story. It was action. Amelia stepped forward, hands resting lightly on the table, leaning in just enough. "This company doesn't need better numbers," she said. It needs a different mindset. No one argued, no one pushed back, because they could feel it. The shift. Power had changed hands, completely. She straightened, picked up her tablet. "I'll see you tomorrow," she said. Then she turned, walked out, and just like that, everything began to change. Because the truth is simple. Power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask permission, and it doesn't care what you think it looks like. If this story made you think, made you feel something real, take a second to like and subscribe, and drop 3 words in the comments. Respect is earned.